I returned to this and began to look at the first floor, and this kind of takes a couple different turns because of that, though. But I began looking at this first floor again, and the first thing was getting rid of that hinged door here, making that a cased opening. And then this was your dimensions based on that chimney projection and without it. And because this is a pathway through here, I don't know if it's possible. Remember, on the second floor, we took this down to the floor because of how it was intruding in that bedroom. So now do we take it down another floor all the way to the basement? But that's what I'm showing for the next minute or two, was like that. And so the next thing I did is I had to account for this new bath load on these new floor joists. And we had tested these floor joists at 40 pounds per square foot over here once we repair them to these double 2x8s. So we were pretty good through there. But I went through and ran these anyway, these front ones, because we are imposing a little bit of bathroom load here. And I ran through those front ones and they failed just on deflection. And then when I test them with, without having that new closet load on them, they also fail, and again only on deflection and just by a minor amount. So I left those ones alone and ignored those ones. And then the ceiling joists over that same room, over the living room, those passed easily. But over the dining room, of course, we knew that the single 2x8s weren't going to do it under any circumstance. They were all failing. So we went to two 2x8s over that dining room ceiling. And then I have those new loads imposed on there, the wall load here, and then this much of the 40 pounds per square foot, and this all at 30 pounds per square foot over here. And then I went through a whole thing of framing up for this bathroom. For this, you could see bathroom F above there. And I went through a whole rigmarole of framing for this and allowing for the drains from these fixtures in those places there. And this is where I don't want to waste a lot of time. But we had to get drains from both of those down to the basement. And those blue joists, those are the ceiling joists, those can almost be ignored because those can be just nailed to whatever the 2x8s or whatever the ceiling joists are, or the floor joists are. So if we ignore those, though, you can see with that toilet placement there, there's going to be an issue with those two joists there. And those are eventually, one way or another, would have to be headed off to allow for that flange and for that pipe to come up and turn and get down to our chase on the first floor. And then looking at the shower drain here, it has a couple choices, and I had brought it over this way. This is the shower drain coming down. You don't see the vertical, but coming down, I had brought it over, and then it was going to head to the toilet this way through those joists. That's really not going to be possible because if I put that dead center of the joist where it makes its turn here like this, and so the fitting is dead center of the joist, but this has to follow that 1/4 inch per foot fall, and by the time it gets to that end, it's below the center line of those 2x8s, which those begin to make it fail. So those, at least those three, would have to be increased to 2x10s, and that's just the ceiling joists coming along underneath. And so, as an alternative to that, as an alternative to increasing those to 2x10s through there, it started to look to me like maybe the best thing is to take this drain over and either down through this chimney structure or replace a part of that chimney structure right down through that blue dot. Replace a part of that chimney structure with a section of framed wall. And that's what I did for that tub or that shower drain. And even though the bathroom changes pretty substantially because of this toilet issue, that remains consistent as a solution for the shower drain. So it's going to come over and drop, and then the sink drain is going to come into that. And the toilet drain, if the toilet drain was to stay here and continue its thing, this was an endeavor to preserve this second floor plan 501A, which had been built from F. This was an endeavor to preserve that, but the amount of work, and there's where the drain from the shower comes down in the basement. And in order to preserve that bathroom 501A, I had to reframe this floor like this. And that is all doable. And you can see this was going to happen anyway because all of these are doubled to 2x8s. But this last two here, this one and this one, those get headered off here with this new header, and that runs into this brick over the door. And I'm assuming we will either have to put in some structure or there's enough structure there again. I haven't looked at that yet because this began to seem, because remember, anything we do over here we have to do on the other side as well. So this began to seem like a lot of rigmarole to accomplish this 501A bathroom. It's doable, and there's the drop for the toilet where the blue dot is here, and there's where it comes down in the basement. And that's how it is on the second floor. So it's doable like this. But as I said, it's a little bit of rigmarole, or a lot of rigmarole. And so I began to look at I began to want to look at this a little bit more on this second floor. And so, because this is almost all doors here, I stole a couple inches from that. And I'm looking to widen this pathway here. And I stole a couple inches more, an inch and a half more from the back bedroom, from bedroom 2, to accomplish that 3/0 width through there, so that we can move that toilet over this way. And we either have a cabinet, big wall cabinet here for linen and toiletry, facing this way, and then this closet here, 1'8", so it's almost 2 foot, so you could have hanging things in there, but that can actually be an overflow linen storage closet or just plain old storage. And so that's where our drains were. This one's going to pretty much remain here. The shower drain remains there, and you can see where the toilet drain had been planned in the old 501A plan. Now it moves over to there. I look at this a little bit further, and it's down here, pushed to the back of our chase. And we have these joists back there at that back wall. The blue one at the very top. And so those need accounted for, and that's going to be in the road of those. So the short story is that comes forward 6 inches. That toilet drop comes forward to the back side of our to this side of our chase here. Comes forward like that. The window goes away up there, which I never thought that was going to happen. The window goes away. Now you can see it making it down the chase, and then that cabinet swings over there. And we have this sort of arrangement here. Now either you have a deep closet here, and then once that happened, the next thing was, do we make this closet shorter this way, go down to a 28-inch door, and bring this shower to a 60-inch wide, which really opens up the possibilities. There's a lot more product for 60 than there is for 54. And that's just at the expense of that closet at the top. And this starts feeling even more balanced than the last one, once we had increased this to 39 inches. Now now is a quick discussion of getting the mechanicals up through there. So, and I'm assuming the way these plumbers work, that drop there could probably happen anywhere along here to accomplish this bathroom B up here. And that leaves this box here and this box here for the rest of the mechanicals to provide supply air anyway for these rooms up here. And I have this one under this window, one under this window, and this is the one in the bathroom. That one in the bathroom gets to be a close call. And you can see it's in the joists right here, the one in the bathroom is. So that has to move up. Luckily there's still room. There's the railing, not the railing, but there's the half wall behind the toilet that holds that cabinet up. And there's some flexibility in where some of this moves, but I want to look at that. So it looked to me like we could get those 3 supplies up there like that. And then if we want some sort of additional mechanical chases for return air or something like this, I don't know exactly how all of this works. But there is still room, for a 6-inch wide, and bringing this closet to 111, a 6-inch wide piece through here as a mechanical bed. So that's kind of probably, if we did that, that becomes Plan C. And so that's where I got on that, and I just don't think it makes sense to go to that other plan that took all that floor rigmarole, horsing around with all those joists. So this keeps it a lot simpler, or should, and it's probably a question of which side this shower head and arrangement goes on. And probably on that side there, I'd probably maybe move this door back 3 or 4 inches this way. But that would end that then. That would be 501C, would be this plan here. And that's what I'm going to work with in the next day or so, the next several hours for this first floor. And so you can see these joists here. Now when we go to that 60-inch shower, it could be that its drain interferes with one of these joists. So this is going to have to be laid out in advance, whether you might need to get a right tub drain or left tub drain. Well, a left tub drain probably is not going to help you. It only would have to go through one joist. So actually a right drain would work where it only had to go through one set of these joists, okay? And a left drain might work as long as you can get down through here. So if it's on the right, it's going to come through here and then come over to this toilet thing, I would think, or get into that wall. And if it's down here, either in the center or here, depending on how those measurements work out. And my idea would be that all this floor is just cut out. In this whole area here, that floor is cut out and the ceiling is cut out, just dropped. I mean, we're going to have to be putting a couple members up there once we take out all that brick wall anyway on the second floor. But that would work, and I think that's the plan I'm going to work with. And then it's just a little bit more on this mechanical space here. We have these 2 vertical chases here, and then I had shown a horizontal chase, and that's going to remain, I think, because it has to allow this duct to come up and over and get under this window, for example, or go wherever it has to go. But one of the things to keep in mind is that there's a lot of space in there, even with this soffit, or whatever you want to call it, at 9'4", and I actually moved it up. There's still 9 inches. Ignore the ceiling joists. Those can just be tacked. Again, those can be just tacked to the floor joists. You don't carry the load. But there's almost 9 inches of plenum space up in here to work with in terms of ducting and so forth. And because we have those vertical pieces, I am inclined to keep this horizontal piece here rather than have these 2 clunks in the room. So I think that'll be a little smoother. I don't know if we're inclined to put crown mold, but certainly that'd be a little bit smoother with crown mold. So that's the end of that, and I'm just gonna send this over this little bit, and then in the next couple of hours I'll develop this and wrap it up with a little follow-up.